What's going on, everyone? About 53% of stocks in the S&P 500 closed up in the green today, and the S&P 500 is less than 1% away from a brand new record high. The Dow already broke record highs, so that's great to see. But in today's video, we're going to be covering everything you have to know about the market right now, some of the stocks that are moving in the strongest ways. We're also going to cover how oil is starting to pop up and how, I guess you could say, the geopolitical tensions in the Middle East are definitely playing into that. And all of this is happening as we have Nvidia on the schedule for earnings this week. So we have a lot to talk about today, and we have some pretty good setups. So make sure to stick with us all the way until the end. But besides that, Tom, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, this morning the SPY was running up pretty well. I love the way that it was moving, and actually it was moving above the high of last week in a pretty big way. But once the open actually happened, we started to see the market fall right back off. SPY ended up pulling back under 560 and closed right around that 560 mark. So this is definitely going to be on watch for tomorrow, Mike. You know, it's not good to see the market pulling back in this way. It closed down 0.24%. But like you said, what was that percentage on the heat map one more time? It was actually green, right?
Yes, 53% of stocks in the S&P 500 closed up in the green today, but the stocks that mattered, especially these big tech stocks, were lagging quite a bit, and it shows that we're seeing some profit taking come into play.
Yeah, we definitely are. Like, you can see that the big tech stocks, like you mentioned, are down quite a bit. AVGO, AMD, NVIDIA, all down a lot. But, you know, the stocks that are moving are like those more value stocks, like the Dow stocks, like KO, Walmart, Procter & Gamble, stocks like that. Even the oil stocks, Starbucks. You know, these stocks are the ones kind of fueling the market at the moment. But looking at the big tech stocks, Mike, NVIDIA fell off quite a bit again. We saw SMCI down around 8%. I mean, look at that massive pullback under that $600 support, which is such a key level there. If we would have held 600, I think today would have been a much different day for the chip stocks. But going into tomorrow, Mike, it's going to be a wild day. And I know we talked yesterday a ton about crude oil, and today we're seeing those stocks pop off again. ZOM actually closed around highs, and it's great to see these stocks popping off like they are.
No doubt. So we hit on this a little bit in yesterday's video, but we definitely have to talk about it more because oil is starting to move in a pretty exciting way. Basically, oil is jumping up as, of course, tensions are rising in the Middle East, and that, as many would expect, definitely impacts the price of oil. But at the same time, we are seeing, I guess you could say, production halt in Libya, which also, I guess you could say, adds to the messy oil situation. So with all of this being said, not only are oil prices rising, but so are companies and stocks that have to do with the oil and energy sector. So let's keep a very close eye on stocks like ExxonMobil, which is XOM, Chevron, CVX. You could say OXY, which is Occidental Petroleum. You could even look at USO and BNO as well, but we're starting to see a lot of money flow into this area of the market, and it's happening at a time where a lot of the, I guess you could say, quote-unquote hot areas of the market, especially big tech stocks, are slowing down a little bit. So let's be mindful of how, I guess you could say, the flows are shifting.
Yeah, and it's huge. I know that crude oil is definitely being affected a lot by this Libya situation as well as that Middle East situation. You know, whenever I was looking into this, I was like, you know, is Libya going to really make a big difference there? You know, they do produce 1.2 million barrels per day with more than 1 million barrels exported to the global market. So they definitely do have, you know, some footprint there, obviously in the oil sector. And, you know, of course, sentiment right now in oil is the main thing, right? We have that combined with the whole Middle East situation. It's really creating a good scenario here for crude oil. And, you know, we look at oil on the chart. It's been bouncing off that lower support very well. We talked about that support yesterday. It just keeps holding up here in the short term around 72 to 73. So it's looking great, Mike. I would love to see crude oil get back to like $80 by the end of the week. We're actually not far off. You know, a couple more green days like this, and we'll be right back at 80. And that should be pretty good for ZOM, Oxy, and others that are approaching pretty big resistances.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about oil and the energy sector as the video goes on, but there's definitely some great inflows heading into that area of the market right now. But as we talked about a little bit earlier in the video, we have quite the earnings lineup ahead of us for this week, so let's dive right into it.
Yeah, it's huge. This morning, PDD reported we saw a huge pullback out of that China stock this morning. I don't know. Some of the China stocks in the short term are pulling back pretty hard. And then we also have on Wednesday, that's obviously the big day, right? Nobody really cares about the stocks reporting tomorrow, Mike, like Sentinel One or Box, I guess, But we do have Abercrombie and Fitch, Chewy in pre-market on Wednesday. Then we have Nvidia, CrowdStrike, Salesforce, Affirm. That is quite like the stock lineup right there. So Wednesday and after hours going to be a huge day, and then Thursday, Lululemon and Dell do report there along with MRVL, which is another chip stock.
Big time. This goes without saying, but Wednesday is the day of the week for multiple reasons. Not only do we have Nvidia set to report, but even like some of these other stocks, like you mentioned with CrowdStrike and Chewy specifically, those are stocks that have, moved in some major ways over these past couple of months. We all know the CrowdStrike situation, how they had that little minor outage recently, but there's also Chewy, which has been having a phenomenal year, but it's kind of pulling back or slowing down just a little bit. So depending on how these upcoming earnings are, that can kind of like reignite its already explosive uptrend, or it can kind of just like normalize the stock. Either way, Chewy is a stock that I own for the long term and I plan to own for a long time, but at the same time, the stock has really good short-term moves as well, and it would be awesome to see this stock, getting back to the way it was moving, I guess you could say, towards the end of June, because there were a lot of big opportunity-filled days when the stock was moving like that. So I think it'll definitely be worth watching and keeping close on the radar for the week. But then even with the economic schedule, we do have a handful of important events this week. On Thursday, we have some GDP data, and then on Friday, we have PCE data, personal income, and personal spending. So there will be no shortage of good moves and opportunities.
Yeah, there definitely won't be. I know that PCE data is one of the most important things to look for. So is some of the GDP data. We can see the markets move quite a bit on this. But talk about markets moving. One of the more influential stocks in the market, Apple, is actually falling off in after hours tonight quite a bit. Now, it's not like they're down a ton, but from like around their closing price to the low of after hours, they fell like 1.6%, and it looks like their CFO is stepping down. So that's a very interesting situation for one of the bigger companies in the world. I did see that this was a planned, I guess, operation to have this happen, but at the end of the day, it's always interesting whenever one of the biggest CFOs, in the market ends up stepping down. And of course, Apple's such an influential company, it's going to be huge there. But Mike, Apple also had some more news today, and keep in mind the CFO news did just drop. I want to keep that in mind too. But they did announce an iPhone event for September 9th, which is pretty big. They're using the tagline, "It's glow time." They're going to be redesigning their Siri interface, which is interesting. But what's even more interesting to me, Mike, is, historically in the stock market, we already know that September is not the best month for the stock market, right? And of course, one of the bigger stocks in the market is Apple. So, as I start to go back and I look through some of these previous Septembers here with Apple stock, it's kind of mind-blowing how often these Septembers end up falling. Like September of 22 was pretty rough. You could go back to September of 21, pretty big pullback there in September. Go back to September of 2020, huge pullback. Now, of course, we had COVID, right? You go back to even the other September in 2019. I'm not going to say that it pulled back there, but it was very flat, right? It was a flat time for that stock. So I don't know. Septembers are not the best for Apple, Mike. They're not the best for the market either. And of course, the CFO stepping down doesn't help the situation at all either.
No doubt. So with Apple, if we do see more continued bearish price action, this can offer some good like short to medium term trade opportunities. So just keep that in mind, just solely based off of like momentum, price action, and this stock's history. Again, like Tom said, September isn't the best time for the market, so you definitely have that working on your side as well. But either way, let's keep Apple close on watch. But whether we're looking at Apple or Nvidia or any of these other big tech stocks. Their situation is somewhat similar to the SPY overall in the sense that they have recovered quite a bit from recent lows, and they're getting to points where there's some heavy resistance overhead. Tom, looking at SPY right now, what would you say are like the most important levels to watch in both directions?
Yeah, for tomorrow, I'm definitely going to be watching some of these levels that we broke down below today. So the first one is 561. I have that as pretty good resistance intraday. The stock actually failed to break out there around market close. So that'll be a short-term resistance, as well as 562.50 and then 563.50 overhead as well, kind of where it rejected this morning. Once we get past 563.50, I'm really just looking at 565 overhead, which is the all-time high. As supports, I'm watching 558, 556.80, and then 555 down there at lows. And with the way the SPY started rejecting today, if we see more selling pressure tomorrow, I'll be targeting 558. I think that would be a good area for a nice breakdown, and also that'd be a good support to test too.
Sounds great. So those are the key levels for SPY tomorrow, so keep them close on watch. But besides that, let's get right into some setups and predictions. A stock I'm watching very closely right now is SMH, and it is to the downside. SMH follows semiconductor stocks, and these stocks have been crushing it over the past year, but they're getting to the point where the momentum is definitely slowing down quite a bit, and we're starting to see some profit taking ahead of NVIDIA's upcoming earnings report, and I can't blame a lot of people for doing this, right? Like Tom mentioned in the beginning of the video, we saw some serious selling pressure, not only from like SMCI, but even like other chip-related stocks like AMD, AVGO, Qualcomm, ARM, MU, and a bunch of other ones, and this says a lot. So SMH is basically a bunch of chip stocks all under one ticker. So SMH is definitely going to be on my bearish radar going into tomorrow and the next couple trading days. We're seeing a lot of profit taking right now, and especially if we continue to break below like the $242 area and just put consistent pressure on, you could say, the low of day, that is what would be like an ideal scenario. But either way, SMH is on watch.
Yeah, I like that support here in the short term. It'd be nice to see a nice breakdown right there. And with my first stock, I'm actually looking at AMD to the downside. So I'm definitely with you there on the chip stocks, Mike. And AMD's under a pretty key support here around 150. So if we open up tomorrow under 150 and we see a good break under the double bottom today, right around 148.90, then keep watching AMD down. I'll be looking for another flush. These chip stocks have been moving up very well over the past few weeks on this recovery. We're starting to see a lot of resistance hitting in the short term and a lot of profit taking, like Mike said, probably ahead of these earnings here. So I also really like this resistance around 151 as well. This was actually the low from Thursday, and I think that could be a pretty good resistance to watch. Like if you do short and you start to see AMD move back above 151, that might be an area to place a stop loss or something like that. Of course, do your own due diligence and set up your risk strategy how you can, but I'm looking for that 148.90 break.
Love to see it, and I definitely like to see that bearish price action continuing. So good stuff there. Another stock I'm watching very closely is ExxonMobil, and it is to the upside. ExxonMobil is a stock that, as you might guess, has a lot to benefit from increasing oil prices. As we saw today, oil prices are on the rise, and ExxonMobil stock is too. The stock has been slowly chopping upwards over like the past couple of months, and it's getting closer to like a crucial resistance area right around $120 a share. As we look at ExxonMobil right now, it's at a point where it is uptrending. There's some real news behind it driving the stock higher, but it's not to the point where the trade is so crowded and just like it's not to the point where like it has already broken out, which is a good thing. We're kind of early in this setup. On top of that, the stock has been making higher lows, which is normally a bullish thing. So ExxonMobil is definitely on my bullish radar, not only for tomorrow, but even for like the next couple trading days. And I also really like how it has a lot to do with some real world events going on right now.
Yeah, some of these events are insane, with Libya, and then of course the whole fear with Israel and Hezbollah is obviously a huge situation as well, and we're still looking at like the whole Iran situation. So yeah, we're gonna definitely have a pretty interesting next couple weeks in the oil sector. I have a feeling, and one stock or my next stock is Tesla, and we're gonna be looking at this one on the Bookmap because there is a crucial support coming up. So Tesla's been pretty wild the past few weeks, but this major support around 210 is gonna be coming into play tomorrow. So there's been a couple crucial bounces here. And as we go to the Bookmap, you can see that 210 and 211 are major. And 210 has like 136,000 shares stacked there, while 211 had around 87,000 around the end of the day today. So I'm really going to be looking for that breakdown of 210 tomorrow. There was just a lot of negativity in the market. I'm looking for the SPY to also, continue to come down off of resistance. If that's not the case, I will adapt and look at other plays like maybe oil or something else like that that's moving better. But I will be looking for 210 for that breakdown. And I love on the Bookmap how it just shows it so clearly, right? 210 and 211 are going to be crucial tomorrow.
Yeah, those are major buy walls right there, and if they break, the next major level, which we're not too far away from, is 200. So be ready for that, and I'm sure more activity will come into play as the stock gets closer to 200. But either way, Tesla's definitely a key stock to keep on watch going forward. But besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have ARM to the downside.
Yeah, another chip stock here. Pretty rough day for them. They have a good support around 127.50 to 128. So if they break 127.50, watch them down.
All right. With the next one, we have Palantir also to the downside.
Yeah, I know this stock is pretty rough here in the short term, Mike. It's approaching $30, but if it breaks under 30.60 tomorrow, keep watching it down.
All right. And then with the last one, we have Microsoft for both directions.
MSFT right around key support at 411. So if they're able to get under that key support, then keep watching Microsoft to the downside. They've had some trouble breaking below here over the past couple of days. If they do end up ripping back up above 414.25, then watch them back up. That was a pretty good intraday resistance there.
Sounds good. So we have the upside level for a potential move higher. We have the downside level for a potential move lower. This is for Microsoft. Don't forget about the downside levels with Palantir and ARM as well. These three stocks are on watch for potential day trades tomorrow if and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. The stronger and more consistent these stocks move, the better and stronger the setups become. So keep them on watch for tomorrow. And besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's $360,000 big money trade. And we are looking again at the energy sector. We're looking at ticker symbol XLE, which is an ETF that follows the energy sector, and this goes hand in hand again with the price of oil and everything else associated with that. Basically, the big money bought the 85 strike call options that expire on March 31st of 2025. So these call options are pretty deep in the money. They have a lot of time to them, and they're getting in at the, in an exciting time, you can say. XLE and just the whole oil sector and just the energy sector hasn't had too much hype to it over like the past couple of months, and it's kind of just been like chopping around. Considering these calls are in the money and they have a good amount of time to them, shows that the big money is, definitely looking at this trade with more of like a medium term outlook. The expiration is all the way in March of 2025, which, to be honest, sounds like it's far away, but it's really not that far away. I'm sure it's gonna fly by, but either way, I think this is a very interesting setup, but it's more of, again, like a medium to longer term setup.
Yeah, the older I get, the faster time flies, right? And especially lately with everything going on the past couple years with the whole COVID and then inflation, and then now we have the elections again. It's like, man, time is flying here in the short term, but I like how they have time right here out to March. This will, I think, really allow traders to hold through some of this chop. Look at XLE right now. It's kind of like in the chop zone, so to say. I mean, the chops that we've been seeing on XLE the past few months are pretty insane. insane. It's not just XLE either. You know, it's a lot of the oil stocks. Even ZOM has been super choppy. So, you know, we've been seeing a lot of chop in this sector. And I like that this has enough time to allow us to hold. You know, we might see a run up, test of resistance, maybe push back towards the middle of the range before getting that true breakout. Now, of course, you know, it's hard to predict every single situation, but, you know, if we do get a nice breakout, then obviously the sooner the better, right? But I'm glad that there's time there for this overall range that XLE is in. It'll give traders more chances to hold it, and I think a better chance to win overall on the trade. But I will say though, Mike, even in the short term, I do love how it's breaking this short-term resistance around like 91.85 to 92, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it moving up this week either. You know, we've been looking at ZOM and a lot of other oil stocks as well, but overall, I think it's an awesome swing trade. And, you know, heading into the election, I like how this isn't necessarily something that the election will affect too much, right? And if anything, I would hope that it actually helps it in a way where oil actually ends up going up more.
And like another thing too is like, you know, when we look at the market right now and we see it at all-time highs and things are generally speaking pretty good, you know, if we were to see, you know, oil like actually rip higher, that's not going to be the best sign for other areas of the market, because that'll show that inflation's probably going to tick higher, and that's going to throw a massive wrench into Jerome Powell's rate cut plans, let alone a bunch of other things. So I feel like the oil and just energy area of the market right now is in a unique spot where there's not much hype to it, but it offers like, I don't want to say it's not I wouldn't call it like an area of safety necessarily, but it definitely has potential to do well in the event that other areas of the market slow down or suffer a bit. So either way, keep a close eye on this one going forward. But as we look at the market right now, Tom, I think we're set for a very exciting week. We're still so close to all-time highs, and we're a couple days away from NVIDIA's earnings report. So it's going to be an exciting one.
It really is. Come on, NVIDIA. Guys, let us know in the comments how you think NVIDIA is going to do on this report. You know, some of these tech stocks have still had some pretty good reports, so we'll have to see. I know NVIDIA has some insane year-over-year numbers, Mike. Like, whenever I read NVIDIA's report and I see that, you know, they're having, like, multi-100%, you know, years or multi-100% growth on revenue and stuff, it's just really insane, right? Not a lot of companies can say a lot of the growth that NVIDIA and some of these others have had, but it'll definitely be a big report. I'm even watching them very closely tomorrow. There was a pretty good resistance today at the end of day, right around 127.50 that they were double topping off of. I was watching that like a hawk today, and I'm really going to be watching that 125 support coming up tomorrow. But yeah, let's have a great week, guys. And of course, like I said, let us know in the comments how you think NVIDIA is going to do. I can't wait to read some of those.
Yeah, and the main question is, can they live up to the hype, you know? And we're about to find out, because, yeah, they've been booming over the past couple of years, and, you know, they are the third heaviest weighted company in the entire S&P 500. So they definitely, the stage is set for them, we'll put it that way. But if you guys are new to the channel, consider obliterating that subscribe button. We post brand new videos every single day, and we are just a couple subscribers away from the 100,000 mark. So you might be our 100,000 subscriber today. So consider demolishing that subscribe button. If you do, you'll get our videos recommended to you more often. In every single video, we cover everything you have to know about the market, important charts, information, big money plays, and just everything you have to know in like 20 to 25 minutes or less. So consider joining the Stocked Up crew. Besides that, I'm very excited for the week. We should have a lot of great movement and opportunities. But before we close out, we want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Juju Beans, who's been in the community for a couple weeks now, but has been a great member nonetheless, and had a great post today in the Profits channel with some QQQ put options. So huge shout out to you, Juju Beans, and keep up the great work going forward. Besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's have an amazing week in the market.